Hello, welcome back to another episode of the TFR Podcast. We are back today to review the Belgium Grand Prix, and I once again have a new guest on today's podcast. It's almost a different guest each week at the minute. Welcome, JP, to the TFR Podcast. How are you doing, and are you looking forward to reviewing this Belgium GP with me? It wasn't the most exciting race, but there's plenty to talk about.
Yeah, there's plenty to talk about. First of all, feel like this red flag is utter nonsense to me. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
I don't get it. Just like Silverstone, you basically have you can have a full shower and there's like barely a safety car for that, and it's like rain less in Belgium, and also the Formula Two race is way heavier raining. So I don't get it. It just makes things boring.
Yeah, it was a massively affected race, that is for sure. And we'll kind of dive into that fairly quickly because I think that was almost one of the biggest talking points of this kind of weekend just gone's Belgium GP, because it really almost spoiled the weekend's racing with how it ended up on the Sunday. And if you are living under a rock, it obviously did get delayed by about an hour and 20 minutes. Because of heavy rain at Spa. We had already had the F2 race. I believe the F3 race was actually cancelled though. And they knew there was a weather system coming in. So they kind of waited and waited and waited until, JP, where we literally got almost bone dry conditions at some point,
Yeah.
near the start of the race. Because we'd waited that bloody long. I mean, it was infuriating, wasn't it? I mean, we've been here before with Spa, and I totally get there is the element of, what's happened there before. We've had the very sad passings of Antoine Hubert and other drivers in even recent times, but surely this was a little bit overkill, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's not like 2021. It's not like full shower goes on. You can't even drive in the like full wet side. It's much better than that. Also, when this guy boom dry, it's still like red flag for like 20 minutes more. So it's like pretty strange like for racing. And also, I know like this there will be a bigger shower like for the like after the first red flag. They said there will be like a bigger shower for the next 10 minutes, and it didn't happen. So like people are getting pissed to be honest.
They were though, because it was just like, I mean, could you imagine being a fan there? I mean, if you're just stood there, absolutely drenched
Yeah,
already, and you're just got
yeah.
no
Also,
idea what's
in the
happening.
other mountains, it's so cold sometimes, and
Mm.
the wind, it picks up and everything just the wet grass, and you sit on it. It's not comfortable. It's definitely not comfortable.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember being there a couple of years ago. I went for the sprint, and I think it was sprint qualifying back then in 2023, and that got delayed by about an hour, and that was kind of heavy rain, and then it kind of dried up quite quickly after. But it just feels like Spa at the minute. I mean, Max kind of said about this after the race, was in a bit of a jokey way, saying, what we're going to do? Are we just going to drive now when it's only dry? And when it comes to wet weather running, we just don't do it. We just basically be like, what, guys, we're just going to wait for the track to dry, and everybody's just going to have to sit tight until the weather clears. I mean, what do you make of his point there, JP? Do you kind of see the frustrations there? I mean, again, we've got the wet tires, and they weren't even used once, on the Sunday.
Yeah, like for obviously for Max, it's pretty frustrating. Also, obviously they use a higher downforce just for the wet weather, so it's like for them it's not good. Also for McLarens, like the kind of like most people push for like the red flag and delay. So I'm kind of like suspicious about it, but it's the two McLarens. They kind of want to like maintain the lead because I think like they are pretty. To be honest, they're kind of pretty scared of Max like getting into their head when they're in the West. Also because that what happened in the springs, like he held up like for 15 laps, which Max says was like 15 coil laps and stuff, and I think he got into their head. Yeah.
Yeah, there's an interesting thing you bring up there, JP, is obviously on the sprint on Saturday, Max Verstappen did actually win that. I mean, we talked about in the preview podcast that there was the potential Max could have a big say in that race on Saturday, and he did. He got the perfect start, as a lot of us expected, where that lower wing had such an impact in terms of that straight line speed, and he was able to breeze past Piastri down the Kemmel Straight, but then and quite, I would say actually quite easily held off both McLarens. It probably wasn't easy for Max, but they never really got a really good chance at getting ahead of Max. But then obviously they changed the wings, JP, for the Sunday race, and then if they delay the race until the point where it's basically a dry race, I mean, they probably regretted that, didn't they?
Yeah. Let's say if it's bone dry, if I like keeps doing things like that, nobody will like do a wet setup anymore. I think any like high speed circuits, otherwise it just doesn't pay off. And like for Max, I believe if if he had gone for the setup like for the Saturday sprint, I don't think he will end up behind Leclerc. I don't think so, actually. Yeah,
Yeah, I
because like
agree.
Red Bull got real some pace, straight line speed. Like I saw the delta on the first sector for the last thing for Leclerc and Verstappen. Every single time, it just from the source to Camel's back end of Camel Straight, like Verstappen just lose 2 tenths.
Exactly, and I think we've got
Yeah.
a little guest there in the background, just who's opened the door. Just to let you know,
that's my friend,
someone tries to come in. Someone's invading the podcast here. Hello, welcome. Feel free to join if you want, but
He's trying to get the garage.
That's fine. That's not a problem.
Yeah.
Feel free. But yeah, I think you're right, JP. Leclerc, as great of a driver as it was, to stay ahead of Verstappen for as long as he did, I mean, really, Max, we know that the potential of that car was greater than what we saw on Sunday. And if they had gone for that low wing setup, who knows? Even at the start of the race, he could have maybe been more in the mix of getting ahead of the Ferrari and then sticking it out with the McLarens. We'll never know. But obviously, with the result of that race, the two McLarens did get away quite clearly at the beginning, and they were under zero threat. Nobody was going to get anywhere near them. And the key moment, I would say, of that entire race, JP, was probably the restart. And obviously, we didn't get a standing start after the delay. We got a rolling start this time because of the weather conditions, which I was surprised to see that. Usually they kind of keep going around the track until they can do a standing start, but they obviously decided to go for that rolling start. And Lando Norris, who was on pole, made a bit of a mess of it, didn't he?
Yeah, like his restart time is pretty weird. I think he picked up the pace like in Blanchimont already, which is kind of weird because people like in my mind they usually pick up like only in the above start chicane. So that's pretty weird. First place, also second place. It's his second battery problem like for the season. I think he got it in Austria for the first stint also. So that's pretty weird for McLaren's. I honestly don't really think that restart really cost Lando the win. I think it's the last stints on the hards. Like he made like 2 or 3 big errors, one in Pujon and one in La Source. That's really cost him. Because otherwise he was really getting the top Oscar. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was obviously the big part of the race as well, is that change of tires. When they went from intermediates to the dry tires, Norris took the gamble of going onto the hards. McLaren didn't double stack with the two drivers, and they obviously have made that mistake before, and it's cost. Well, I say they've made that mistake before, actually, JP. They don't really do that. They do really just leave the other driver out, because they did this at other races this season. Yeah, and so Norris lost time from that, but went on the hard tires, which allowed him to come back at Piastri towards the end of the race. And you'd say the pressure probably got to Norris this time. I mean, he's been on a bit of a good run of form and a bit of momentum, But like you're saying, JP, about those mistakes, that cost him the race. It was a little bit of a slow pit stop here and there, but also those lockups and those running wides, that's what just denied him the opportunity of even having a chance.
Yeah, I think like for raw pace, like I think really he outperformed Oscar this weekend. Like
Really?
he, except for the like sprint quali, I think he's definitely faster. But all these tiny little errors, it's not happened like just today once. It's like even back in like last year, like in Singapore, he won from like for like 20 seconds. He even made that big mistake like into that chicane. He nearly got into a wall and lost his front wing. So you kind of need to like concentrate more in your like long runs. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think there is a little bit of it's an element of lack of concentration, but also it shows the difference in mentality for me. At the minute, we've spoke about this on this podcast before, of how there is a lot of hate towards Lando, and it's a lot of it is totally uncalled for. But I feel he is his worst own enemy in terms of kind of losing the control of a situation, when Oscar Piastri is the complete opposite. He always seems like he's in control. He's ice cold, does not kind of crack under pressure. And this was just another example of it, wasn't it, JP, where Piastri didn't really make any mistakes of note and got the job done.
Yeah, I think the upside for Oscar is like the most is for his head. He from raw pace, he's, to be honest, from my side, I don't think he's near as fast as Lando from the
Really?
like raw talent side. Yeah. Um, I don't really think he's fast enough like for a championship fight, like full on. Like if you put like several years back, you got Verstappen, you got Hamilton, you even got Nico Rosberg, Vettel. I don't think he's fast enough, but his head really is everything. He's kind of very self-aware of what he can do and what he can't do. So he knows where the limit is, and so he can like stay in that limit like forever. That's his strength. Like for Lando, he's fast. He's really fast. If I'm honest, I feel. But he tends to like overthink and overdrive himself. Like especially for this year's McLaren, if you overdrive, like it's more of like a rear-ended car. The grip is more like it's less pointy. Like
It's
what
quite fragile.
let's say, yeah, yeah, and also it's like more fragile on the front tire deck, which is not what Lando like. He's for me, he's more like a Max type. He like a pointy front end, and you can slide the rear and like rotate him a little bit more. But yeah, he's kind of like he tends just to think too much and drive like he overdrives the car, which makes the car actually slower.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's another example here of, yes, mistakes proving to be costly. And if, very much so, the championship is still close. There's only 16 points in it going into this next race at Hungary. But Norris kind of really has a long list now this season of mistakes. And if you take away even half of those, he'd be in the championship lead and he would, have a decent margin. But that's not the way things work, and Norris will have to go back to the drawing board a little bit. It's not one of his best circuits on paper, Belgium. It's not exactly, this was the first time he's been on the podium at this track. Compared to the race that's coming up in Hungary, he's got a pretty good record at. So we'll just have to see with Lando, but the momentum this time swung in Piastri's favour, gaining points in the sprint and gaining more points in the main race. It was a good weekend for Piastri and a bit of a confidence booster after losing the last couple to Lando Norris. We already mentioned him ever so slightly, but Charles Leclerc was the other driver on the podium. We'd have to say a bit of a return to form for Leclerc and Ferrari with that car. And what would you say? Would you say the upgrades did work for Ferrari, or was this more just like a driver thing? What would you put your finger on it with this one, JP? Because this was a really good result for them to be also ahead of Verstappen on pure pace.
To be honest, I think it's more like on the car side. I feel like Ferrari did like the rear suspension upgrades they brought this
Yes.
weekend does work. it does work pretty well. And also, if you see like from Hamilton's side, his long pace is actually pretty decent if you like you don't consider the last the lift and coasting bit. That's why he didn't overtake Albon. So yeah, the pace is there for Ferrari, like especially on like one lap pace. I feel like there's more in that car, so you can push a little bit more, but you have to like they have to solve the engine issue first because like I heard like pretty a lot these days. They got a like an engine temperature issue, so you can't really push it too hard, even on a one flying lap. On sector three, like in Silverstone, you have to do like a little bit engine mode setting changes on the last sector. Otherwise, the engine just overheat and it just like to go to P0 straight up. Otherwise, so that's why I think they're still. I think they can be like they can they can be faster, but it's definitely a good progress for them. Yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I have heard about that before with Ferrari, that they've got these kind of engine issues where, yes, it does affect them in terms of pure pace. I think they had something like this at Austria as well, where they had a heck of a lot of management actually just curtailing the pace that they potentially had. So yeah, I would say you're probably right. That's probably the one thing at the minute that needs to just get sorted. But apart from that, on Leclerc's side of things, this was a really good weekend and a good bunch of points on the board. Unfortunately, though, for Lewis Hamilton, you can't really say the same thing. He got knocked out in qualifying in Q1. He then got knocked out in the same position in Q1 again for the main qualifying with a track limit infringement. But to be fair to Hamilton, he had a great recovery in the main race and brought himself up to 7th in the end, I believe, and was really making a lot of overtakes at the beginning. But what do you think was up with Lewis this weekend, JP? I mean, really, when you compare it to Leclerc, this was probably a big missed opportunity for Hamilton if that car really was, kind of genuine podium pace.
Yeah, I feel like Hamilton, he's still like struggling a bit with his Ferrari car because it's really not like his car. Like for the last few years, this car is definitely like built around Leclerc more a little bit. It's more like you can like you need to like rotate it a little bit more. Like Hamilton is more like a late breaker. He like to like pitch the car in and then turn it in. So for him, like the long runs, he actually has adapted quite well. Like for the like the past half a year, but for one lap pace, he's still down. I think like for every run, he's like 2 or 3 tenths still down or close. So that's a big issue for him. But on the long runs, he's like pretty matching. I think what he needs to solve now is more like the driving style issue because he like for his whole career he's like driving McLaren and Mercedes cars, which is like more on the smooth side. So you don't have to like really push the car and rotate the car, like doing things like that. But like in Ferrari, it's more linearity, So you have to like he had to really adapt that from all over again. I think from adapting the car side, this might be the biggest challenge he ever faced in his career, actually.
Yeah, I think so, and it's kind of came at a bad time, really, I would say, JP, because, I mean, there's just a lot of work to do there, and he's losing quite badly to Leclerc now. I did say this before this season, that I thought that Leclerc would get the upper hand over Hamilton this season because he's just more comfortable with the team. He's been there longer, and it would be a big change for Lewis. But, when results like this happen, there are questions there, and I think, like, for Lewis, he's got a track next up in Hungary where, again, he has a pretty mega record round there. And that came at good timing because he kind of needs that kind of result. He nearly had that Silverstone, but he needs a result like a podium or something that can really kind of change his season up a little bit. But, right. Moving on, though, we've got the midfield battle to discuss, JP. Now, it was a great result for Alex Albon in 6th place. I mean, what a drive from him. He finished obviously ahead of Hamilton. And yeah, he's shown this multiple times this season, hasn't he, JP, where he can really carry that Williams up the field when sometimes it doesn't necessarily deserve to be there, but he's really at one with that car, if you like.
Yeah, I think like Alex already is the I hate to say it like that, but I feel like he's already the team leader of that Williams
Oh
team.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, from the start of the season, like everybody guessing like Carlos getting in the team and straight up outperforming him, and that's not happening. That's not happening at all. So like Alex is actually doing a very very decent job. I think he's like, let me check. He's like way up the points than Carlos right now. So like really good for him. But on the other side of garage, just loads of work needs to be done.
yeah. It wasn't a great weekend again for Carlos Sainz. He actually had a decent sprint qualifying, but you know, it's kind of just a bit more of the same of just not quite being there when it matters, and really kind of continuing his trend of form. There was some other surprise point scorers at Spa. We had Liam Lawson in eighth place with some more critical points in his season, but even Gabriel Bortoleto once again getting in the points for Sauber. We then had Gasly in 10th, and you'd have to say for all those three there, JP, they will all be delighted just to be in the points because they've beaten their teammates, but also with that battle and how close it is in the constructors, every point does matter this season.
Yeah, but to be honest, I feel like it's already over for Alpine. To be honest, like
Oh, really?
Gasly just like doing his thing all alone. Like I don't feel like Franco did a. I know Franco like this is his first full year in Formula One, but well, let's be real. You can't be like this far of the pack. That's not good because like you know I don't feel like he except for Canada, he's dropping weight from Gasly way too much. It's even like Verstappen's know this gap, so that's really not good for him. From Lawson's side, I feel like after he got a V Cup from like these racings Austria, he kind of built up the momentum again. Like he picked up the pack and then he can deliver again. That's one of the good stuff. For Bortoleto, after the podium in Silverstone for Hulkenberg, I feel like Sauber got the momentum shifting, still pushing up. So that's I feel like Sauber because there will be Audi like for next year, and this will be a very good stuff for them because they really got a good driver lineup.
Yeah, I agree. I think Sauber are very much on the up. I think Jonathan Wheatley's doing a great job there. And yeah, I think that's ever since Spain now. They've been in the points in each race in a row. So long may it continue for them. They've had a heck of a lot of suffering for the last year or so. And like you say, JP, with Audi coming in, it's all encouraging. It's all good at the minute and it's all on the up. And yes, if they keep this form continuing, they will keep going up the standings. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're just behind Williams now. I think they have jumped kind of all those around them. And a lot of that, obviously, from Hulkenberg's podium at Silverstone. But Sauber are going to be one to watch. I tell you, if that Audi car is half decent next season with a works Audi engine, they will be one to keep an eye on because, in terms of what they've got right now, it's only getting better and better. And in terms of midfield and how close it is, Sauber, they are looking in good shape for the new regulations when they come around next season. I think that's pretty much most things covered with Spa. But what I wanted to say was, my word, how boring was that race? I mean, I'm amazed we've actually managed to get quite a few things to talk about with that one, JP, because that was, I'm going to say it right now, it was the most boring race of the season so far. And that is going some because we've had some pretty dull ones this season. I'm thinking Japan, and I think Bahrain. No, not Bahrain. That's totally unfair. Actually, Bahrain
Monaco.
was not bad. Monaco was bad. That's a better shout. We've just had a lot of snooze fest this season, but I think this was the biggest snooze fest of the lot, wasn't it?
Yeah, like in Japan, you still got like even if like it's the board just now overtakes itself, like you still got like Verstappen, Norris, and Piastri, like they are just like a second up to each other, like the whole race. So you kind of have still have to tense up, but this race like it doesn't just really except for the start, even Hamilton like he did basically all his overtakes like when the
First few laps.
when the pit stops and one with the starts. So otherwise, it's just dull. And back to the point we start, I think it just like we don't start the race at the right time. It just kills it.
Yeah, because we almost just had like a. I mean, I know some people did two stops, but it was basically like a one-stop race. You know, nobody actually benefited from pitting again on the dry tires, and it was basically we start on inters and then you go on the dries, and then that's it in terms of strategy. And Spa, I don't know. I like Spa, and I think it's a fantastic circuit, and I don't think it's fault in terms of the layout. I just don't think these cars suit it much anymore. I mean, maybe this will change with the new regulations, but I couldn't tell you the last time we had a great race at Belgium. And I don't know, what do you think about it, JP? I mean, this track's going to go soon to becoming like a rotational circuit. I don't actually know what it will be rotating with, but we know that it's kind of days of being a
Yeah.
permanent track on the calendar are very much numbered. But what do you think about it? Is it F1's outgrown Spa, or is it just the current regulation?
I don't even think it's the current regulation. To be honest, I think it's just the FIA. To be honest, you can't like. There's a rain. You stop the race. You don't do that anymore. Like I know Spas are like a dangerous track. You know, you're going through our Rouge and Rebellion, like full throttle in the rain. I know that's dangerous, but that's I feel like that's part of the motorsport. You can't kill it. All these like racing drivers. I know it's kind of getting a little bit different, like in the modern era, but like racing drivers still got that a little bit like a gladiator mentality inside them should be. So, like, this is what they asked for, to be honest, like racing. So, if you if you tend not to race, it's not the problem of this circuit. It's problem for every race right now. If it rains, you stop. It's just nonsense.
Yeah, I think apart from Silverstone, where it's a super kind of open circuit and there's a lot of wind actually as well, where it can blow the conditions away, we just don't really get it. We don't really get much wet running apart from obviously Australia earlier in the season, which I think is a worrying thing for the sport. I'm not entirely sure what they can do to fix that, but I think it's a bit worrying if we get to the point where basically we have very, very limited wet running. And for crying out loud, Pirelli have to change the wet tyre, because if we just don't use the wet tyre at all, I have no idea why it is even there. So I think that is pretty much Spa wrapped up and done and dusted. So next up, this is the beauty of this podcast, we're going to tie in a kind of review and a preview in this one, because we've obviously got the Hungarian Grand Prix straight up this weekend. Now, I would like to say we had some amazing race coming up, JP, but Hungary itself is not exactly a guarantee of a 10 out of 10 race. But to be fair, we have had some great races here before, haven't we?
Yeah, we definitely have. Like, there's a drama, chaotic, like the start of 2022. I think two Alpines collided together. That's something. I think also that Lewis Hamilton pole position, that was pretty inspiring after beating that pretty dominant Red Bull. That was inspiring. And also what happened last year with Oscar and Lando, that kind of, moving away for him. That were bring number 10s.
Yeah, it's crazy
I'm
to
pretty
think.
sure. I'm pretty sure that Lando will get the scene into his head.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting actually, how that's all going to play out McLaren this season, because I actually can't believe that it is a year ago since we had that big drama between the two teammates at Hungary, and it's going to be fascinating to see how is this going to play out this time. Will we see more radio drama between the two drivers? Obviously, at this point, they were both trying to hunt down Verstappen in the championship. Piastri hadn't even won a race yet in F1, which is crazy to think by this stage last season. And obviously, Piastri was leading the first part of the race. Lando Norris was pitted early to cover off others, but actually ended up undercutting Piastri and taking the lead. There was then a whole heap of drama on the radio between Will Joseph, Lando Norris's kind of race engineer, and Lando Norris himself, because they were pleading him to let Piastri back through to give him his first win but Norris was not having it, and he was keeping that gap. He was extending it out, actually, all the way to the very, very end of the race, where he then conceded, after almost, you could go as far as say it, quite a bit of emotional blackmail from McLaren to make Norris, relinquish the lead. And in the end, Norris didn't win the championship. Piastri won that race. And I wouldn't necessarily say, JP, that McLaren have ever returned the favour to Norris properly. I mean, what do you make of it? They made it very clear that Norris needs Piastri for the championship and in the future. I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure.
To be honest, I think Norris made the wrong decision. He should not let Piastri through. Never. Because if we bring times back, really back, we bring back to 1998 Australian Grand Prix, where McLaren made the same mistake as that. they let Coulthard,
yes,
pit it first, undercutted Mika Hakkinen, and told David to you got to get the place back, and he did it. What happened next is the rest. Mika is the two-time world champion, and David was nothing. So I think that pretty sums it up. Yeah.
I think you're spot on there, JP. That is a good example of when McLaren have done this before. A driver has played it nice, if you like, played the team game, and it does not pay off for them at all. And this notion of you need your teammate to win a championship and things like that, I just think it is complete bollocks. It's absolute rubbish that you need your teammate to win a driver's championship or whatever. I've hardly ever seen it, apart from freak scenarios like 2021 where you got Perez slowing down Hamilton at Abu Dhabi and things like that. Apart from that, I really struggle to think of another example. And like you say, in the end, this has, you could argue, given Piastri then that kickstart in his career. And now here we are, a year on, and Piastri leads Norris in the championship. I mean, you couldn't almost write it after that drama that we had last season. And the question is, do you think we're going to see more drama between the McLarens and Hungary, or do you think it's a different kind of circuit in terms of, how their car will perform?
Yeah, I definitely think so. There will be way more drama even this season on the team comps. I'm kind of like a suspicious guy on team environments in McLaren. There's some little details you can see in and around team. For example, in Silverstone, you see the I don't remember who it is, but the person who carries the constructor trophy was McLaren. He is actually, if you I like to read people's the facial impressions. He's not really into Lando celebrations, to be honest. And I dig deep a little bit. Do you remember Oscar's girlfriend? She's in the McLaren right now.
Yes.
She's actually Oscar's girlfriend's boss, straight boss. So you can say there's a little bit team environment separated in McLaren already right now. So I'm also Oscar's team. His manager is Mark Webber, who is let's say not bad for a number 2 driver.
Yes.
So he knows he had to there always this mind game for Oscar first, building the team, galvanize the whole team around Oscar so he can have that mentality advantage. So that's really what hurt Lando right now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think Mark Webber has been critical for Oscar Piastri in giving him that bit of grit and steel in terms of the way he goes about a championship. And you can bet your bottom dollar Mark Webber will, he knows what happened to him in his career and that whole, like you say, number 2 driver stuff. And he will absolutely not let that happen to Oscar. And it's not going to happen. Piastri is leading the championship and he's really making a name for himself. And so it's going to be an interesting race this weekend. I've just quickly checked the weather forecast. And it looks like there could be a little bit of rain on Sunday and a little bit of light rain. Now, the last time we had a little bit of light rain at Hungary was obviously the race in 2021. You could say a modern-day classic with Esteban Ocon winning that race. and all sorts of carnage and chaos at the beginning of that one, because it was obviously Valtteri Bottas as almost a bit of a bowling ball into the first corner, wiping out about 5 cars or something crazy. So, who knows? Hungary's got a pretty good track record. When there's a bit of rain, it could be actually quite a good race. I actually remember Jenson Button winning his first race at Hungary in those kind of slippery conditions. So, we shall see. And it's going to be fascinating to see what's going to happen with that championship fight at the top. Right, JP, it's time to make our predictions for the 2025 Hungarian Grand Prix. Now, this is your first go at this, so no pressure, but we basically, all of us, get this wrong every week. So the bar is not exactly high. There's not exactly some genius behind the scenes here. So we're going to start off with our pole position predictions. Who is your pick for pole?
Lewis Hamilton.
Say that one more time. I just came away from the microphone.
Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton for pole position at Hungary. Well. I was not expecting that. Explain yourself.
Well, for Hamilton's record, he's fast in Hungary. He can deliver in Hungary in a not so fast car as we can see like in 23 or 22. So he got the pacing there. I feel like Ferrari are really starting to get into his hands. He kind of trying to build a momentum. Like I feel like after Spa, which is a kind of like a week forget for him, like he can't really show up in Hungary. Yeah.
Wow. Lewis for pole. I was not expecting that. That's one of the more out there predictions, I'd say, of the season from you, JP. So, I'm going to go with Lando Norris for pole position. I think he should have the pace, and he's quite good around the circuit. And I think the McLaren should be still on top. What about your podium predictions? Now, this goes from third, second, and then first. So how is that looking for you?
Third place, Lewis Hamilton.
Okay, you okay?
Second place, Oscar Piastri. And first place for Lando Norris. Interesting.
So you expect the McLarens to fight back in the race?
Well, not exactly fight back. I feel like Ferrari made a mistake on their own.
Great.
Ferrari stuff.
I look forward to that. Not. So we will see then. That's interesting. I mean, I wouldn't put it past Ferrari. That is for sure. I think in terms of myself, in third, I'm going to go with Oscar Piastri. I then think Lando Norris will be second. And I actually think Max Verstappen will win the race for Red Bull, which is a little bit out there. But I think that Red Bull, you know what, you think of races like Imola this season, Japan, tracks with a bit of downforce and a bit of, driver skill needed for the kind of best result. I think that's where Max came out on top this season so far. So that is going to be my prediction. So, yes. What do you make of that, JP? You kind of reacted when I said Max, though.
I'm very, very, very surprised at when you said it. I'm actually pretty much a very Max-ish fan. So but I feel like Red Bull, I've been tracing down Red Bull this season. Their high downforce efficiency is lower tech. You can't. There's no way they can deliver in Hungary. To be honest, if he can put that in a win, I will be very, very, very surprised. Even more surprised than that Japan pole.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm putting my neck on the line with it, and we will see who will be right with that one. So, just as a reminder,
Hamilton's Oscar second and Lando first.
Perfect. Yeah, I had Piastri third, Norris second, and Max Verstappen to win. Right, we're going to find out then over the course of the weekend what is going to happen in Hungary. We'll see. Will it be a wet race once again? And we'll see if there's any delays this time around. Thank you, JP, for joining me for the very first time on the TFR podcast. Been a pleasure. And Not a problem. We will be back next week to review the Hungarian Grand Prix, the last race before the summer break. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, make sure you give us a follow on whatever audio platform you choose to use. And if you're watching on YouTube, you can subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll be back in the next one.